everybody. Welcome to this week's Rants. I'm your host, Ryan Shedd. Welcome. And I have two amazing women here with me to close out Women's History Month, and that is Miss Saadia and Miss Dutchessprim from TikTok. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's not gonna be one of those episodes. We're a little late. Sorry, guys. Thanks for sticking around. So many of you guys are already on. That's awesome. So we're gonna just jump right in. Like I said, it's Women's History Month, and I wanted to close it off by pointing out a couple of things that I think are pretty messed up going on our side that we need to bring up. But before we do, I just want to thank Tori Roberg, who I had on my show. I think she was like my second guest. She got me logged into RTS, the request to speak system here in Arizona. So thank you for doing that for me. She went into the Capitol and got me logged in and everything, so I didn't have to drive.
Wow.
So yes, thank you so much for doing that, because we have a bill that I'll be talking about later that I'm going to break my request to speak cherry on because it's pretty bad. And then before I let you guys introduce yourselves, if you guys already know my sponsor, Big Weird Mom, she's been going through it with her husband, Big Weird Dad. And he's actually headed back into the hospital for like the third or fourth time, unfortunately. So if you can keep them in your thoughts, and if your prayer, you can do that too. We'd all appreciate it. So Saadia, my friend, tell everybody where they can meet you, see you, and what you're all about.
Well, I'm not as diversified as Ryan yet, so I am Saadia ____M on TikTok, and I create political commentary and kind of comedic videos there, but go live there because those are just kind of to bait you in, and we can have conversations there about, everything from politics to, worldly news. So that's what I do on TikTok.
I actually love your lives. Like every time I come in there, even if it's just for like 5 minutes, you're always talking about something meaningful. You're not sitting there like, oh, look at the color of my nail. Like you're talking about something deep, and I always like it. That's why I always jump in there. Okay, Duchess, what about you, my friend? Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so I am Dutchessprim, DUTCHESSPRIM on TikTok and Twitter, and on Instagram, Duchess.prim. I also do a lot of political commentary, try to shake things up with some comedy. I actually do a lot of satire that some people don't understand or they take way too seriously. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is. And I like your videos. Matter of fact, we're going to transition into the one you sent me. I think it was yesterday you sent it to me, the Trump wedding.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to let that play out in case anybody hadn't seen it. And then you can throw in some of your comments. So here, in case you guys missed it, apparently Trump crashed a wedding at Mar-a-Lago. What was this, a couple days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to play it for you guys.
I turned off the news, I get all these flash reports, and they're telling me about the border, they're telling me about China, they're telling me about Iran. How are we doing with Iran? How do you like that? Well, they were ready to make it, they would have done anything, and this guy goes and drops the sanctions, and then he says, we'd like to negotiate now. We're not dealing with the United States. They don't want to deal with us. And China, the same thing. They never treated us that way, right? You saw what happened a few days ago. It was terrible. And the border's not good. The border is the worst anybody's ever seen it. And what you see now, multiply it times 10, Jim. You would know how to handle. He's the only one I know that might handle the border tougher than me. But we have to, and the tough is in the most humanitarian way, because that's what it is. What's happening to the kids, they're living in squalor. They are living like nobody has ever seen anybody. There's never been anything like what's happening. And you're going to have hundreds, and you have it now. They have the airplane photos, the shops, and they call them shops. And these things are showing thousands and thousands of people coming up from South America. And it's just, look, it's a disaster. It's a humanitarian disaster from their standpoint, and it's going to destroy the country. And frankly, the country can't afford it. Because you're talking about massive, just incredibly massive amounts, our school systems, our hospital systems, everything. So it's a rough thing, and I just say, do you miss me yet? As we were saying, we did get 75 75 million votes. Nobody's ever gotten that. They said, get 66 million votes, sir, and the election's over. Well, I got 75 million, and they said, but you know, you saw what happened. 10:30 in the evening, all of a sudden they said, that's a strange thing. Why are they closing up certain places, right? A lot of things happening right now.
Ah, fuck, I'm sorry, I couldn't take anymore.
Thanks.
He went on, like, at the very end, he said something about the bride and whatever, but sorry, we couldn't get that far in. Like, seriously, that's just insane. That
It blows.
that was a press conference he held in front of a wedding.
He literally crashed a wedding to have a rally.
Yeah.
Yep, it's the death of a narcissist because he's so starved for attention that he was like, any mic will do. It's your wedding. Just give it to me. Like
Right.
he does not care. He's just like holding the secondhand embarrassment. I kind of had like that drunk uncle and you're just like, oh my God, who let him out of his room? That's what I felt like when I was watching that video.
So embarrassing, but also very on brand.
Yes. Quite on brand, actually. Okay. Now, since we brought up Trump, it's a good segue into, unfortunately, hate crimes. And sorry, my dog apparently wants to come in. But there was a gentleman named Lee Wong. I don't know if you guys caught this video, but he's a representative. I think it was in Ohio. And I'm going to play it because it's a pretty powerful video. And it really speaks to what's going on now because this man's been, attacked, mostly verbally, but, still. So let's watch this and talk about it.
I'm 69 years old, and I'm going to show you what patriotism, the questions about patriotism looks like. Here is my proof. This is sustained from my service in the U.S. military. Now, is this patriot enough? I'm not ashamed to walk around anymore. Before I felt inhibited. People look at me strange. And dare to question me my loyalty to this country. I don't look American enough. Now, last I read the U.S. Constitution, we the people, we are all the same. We are equal. Not this, you are more superior, you are not.
Had you guys seen that yet?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Yeah, I mean, that went pretty viral, understandably so. But I mean, that just really drove home a lot of what we're seeing right now for me. I don't know about you guys. What were your thoughts?
Yep. Absolutely. I think that there has been racism towards people of any race besides being white in this country for a long time. And I think that calling it the China virus or the Kung flu just added fuel to that fire to so many other fires that were fueled during the Trump presidency. And now we're seeing the repercussions of what that does. And it's heartbreaking.
It is. It is for me from where I'm sitting. Saadia, you got anything?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you did, Duchess, as well. But, it's bringing about that new conversation about, like, where are you from? For some reason, being an American, you have to look a certain way. But now we have to justify it. Like, this poor guy had to lift up and show his battle scars and say, how much more American do you want me to be? Right? Like, how many more times are we going to get this from question? How are we going to realize that the face of the nation is no longer just the white, no offense to anybody, but, white male or female that pledges allegiance to the flag. There's people that have literally given their lives, blood, sweat, tears, their families to be a part of this nation. And they've got second and third generations here. And they're still battling, like Duchess said, people that are, making fun of their Asian heritage or their Black heritage. It's becoming a really tired argument.
Yeah, it is. I think for me, of course, all the other things, me being a veteran, it gave me goosebumps watching it again. But what bothered me the most is this is a man still being a public servant, standing up there, lifting his shirt up, and he's still serving the public that treats him like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right. Like, how much more,
how much more do you need?
Exactly. How much more do people have to give to just be seen as people?
Yeah. You know, this guy's given more to this country than 99.9% of Americans out there, and still continues to, and had to stand up and do that type of theater, which is needed, unfortunately, clearly. But he felt the need to do that, and that to me was just.
Then you got people like George Bush, who failed out of flight school, and you've got Captain Bone Spurs that for some reason have never had to defend the fact that they, you know, skipped their military service, and that and then this man has to do that in front of everybody constantly. It's that privilege again speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It was really heartbreaking to watch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm like you just said, a transition into the next thing, which is the George Floyd case. Today was day 2, right, Duchess?
Yes, today was day 2. It was very emotional today, but ended on a really amazing note.
Oh, did it? Well, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I've been watching bits that I've seen on Twitter for the most part because you know, I'm struggling with this one a lot. You know, I know we need to talk about it. I know, you know, that we need to bring attention to it, but man, I'm struggling with it personally a lot.
I think it's really hard to watch, and I have to admit, I watched almost all of the jury selection, and then I started watching it yesterday, and today was the first day where it was an emotional overload for me. It was really hard, and I'm making it a point to watch it. I have it on while I work, so I'm not solely focused on the trial, but I feel like so many people have said this is the trial of the century, and it is. I think that this is going to be such a defining point of the modern history that we are in, and I'm really curious to see how this all plays out, and I'm really nervous that it's not going to play out in the way that we're all hoping it will. But so far, it's looking as though the prosecution has a really strong case, and the defense is kind of grabbing at straws. But we're only hearing from the prosecution's witnesses right now, so the tables could turn at any time. And I think the biggest, sorry, not just like take over the entire.
No, take it over. That's why.
Go for it.
Go.
But I feel like the biggest downfall of having all of the witnesses of the prosecution first, and then the witnesses of the defense second, is there leaves time for people to forget what was said and forget the emotion that was behind those experiences. And I think it's really going to be on the prosecution to really close, like the closing argument is going to have to be even more powerful than their opening argument, which was brilliantly done.
Yeah. Yep. But like you said, I think one of the things that scares me the most, and I'm going to say scares because it does, it literally scares me, is that if this doesn't go the way that it needs to go for the majority, you know, of people, because I think majority of people are watching this, and majority of the reaction I'm seeing is, holy shit, this guy was clearly murdered. You know, and everybody that was there for the most part says the same thing, you know? So, you know, it's like, I don't know. This is killing me. This is killing me. If they don't hold this guy accountable, what we saw in LA, like during Rodney King, will be nothing.
And I think that I think the
I'm not promoting that. Sorry, not promoting that.
Yeah. No, but you know, there is something to be said about getting into good trouble, right? Which is what the prosecution attorney keeps saying. Like, the reason we're here is we're getting into good trouble because it is time for us to stand up for people of color in this country. It is time for us to say no more. We're done with this.
Yeah.
But it was so telling to me that I don't want to say I predicted this, but I had a feeling this would come up at some point. The defense attorney's first argument was he drank a lot and he did drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but when has that ever been a death sentence by a cop? Like, when is that a justifiable death sentence? And why are we focusing on that and not what actually happened? I don't know. I could go on for hours about it.
I got a little emotional earlier too when you just said that. I remembered, so I was reading some of the testimonies of people, and you have an EMT that was offering her services, like you said, and she was not allowed to give her services. You had the dispatcher who was watching on CCTV, I think, or one of the channels. She was seeing a use of excessive force, so she called the sergeant, who is Chauvin's, I guess, supervisor. You see people that are professionals that are seeing that this situation was way escalated, and they were trying to de-escalate the situation. There was I think a 9-year-old girl who said that she saw, the EMTs coaxing him to get off of George Floyd's neck. Like, you hear these things and you're just like, how in the world do you have any defense for this, this individual, unless you are purely racist at heart? Like, these are people that are saying, I was trying to I wanted to render medical aid, but I was not allowed to. He was denied his human right to that. I believe that's my paraphrasing of what she said, but like, it was very emotional to hear that somebody died needlessly because of somebody being allowed to abuse their privilege.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that actually broke me today was there was somebody who was testifying who just turned 18. So she was 17 at the time of the incident. This young woman was so strong and so brave, but she broke down because she said, the days following the incident that I witnessed, I literally went to sleep every night apologizing to George Floyd because I should have done more to save him.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones I saw. Oh, man.
I mean, that's the effect that these kinds of things have on a community, that have on a nation. And I think that is one thing that is getting lost, is you don't get to just say, well, he was doing his job, while the rest of the country is being traumatized and trying to understand what happened and make sense of it. No, there is no unity without accountability.
Yep,
Exactly.
100%.
Well said.
Yep, and I think that's all we need to say on that for right now. So we're going to move on, speaking on George Floyd and standing up for the people of color, Black community, Asian community. Unfortunately, it's not just them right now. It's also the LGBTQ community, in particular the transgender community, that's being attacked through legislation primarily in Arkansas is what I'm going to talk about. But I think there were 2 other states that introduced similar legislation like the next day after Arkansas did. I could be mistaken, but so this is just going to set a precedent. So in case you missed it, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson signed a bill allowing medical workers to deny treating individuals in the LGBTQ community. And they also passed a bill that would affect certain healthcare insurance protections for transgender youth. What do you guys think of that?
It's appalling.
And I'm going to tell you what my initial thought really is with this in particular. You guys, these are the same people that don't want us to infringe on their First Amendment rights, their Second Amendment rights. They don't want to be told to put a mask on, but yet you want to tell people who they like that you can't have health care, or that somebody can deny them health care. And then let's put the politics out of it. What about the Hippocratic Oath as a doctor?
Right.
Yep.
Right. And I think all this comes down to control, right? Like, if they're not controlling someone, they no longer have superiority. Like,
Yes.
the culture is changing and at a very fast pace. And unless you are willing to keep up with that change, you are going to fight it. So what happens when things don't evolve? It dies off. So they're living in this state of fear. And so to counteract that fear, they're like, let's make their life miserable to make us feel better. Because we don't understand them and we don't want to. It's the same reason why they try to control women's bodies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's a really good segue into the next one. God, we're going to get through my list like way sooner than I wanted to.
Well, I'm the only one that commented on the last one, so Saadia.
Yeah, no, you got anything, Saadia?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of off topic a little bit, but I don't know if you guys have seen on TikTok, there's this Lil Nas X video that came out, and I feel like it was very appropriately timed because, again, like Duchess said, it's addressing that, like, these fear mongers who have used this narrative for so long, and now, like, he is taking that power back and saying, you can't scare me, right? Like, okay, so what if I'm gay? So what if I'm queer? So what if I'm this? You have no power over me, and it's causing them to go into panic. So I think we need to use that same exact kind of flame that he did and kind of apply it to our politics. Like, okay, we're going to fight you back. I thought it was I was very upset to hear about that. But then when I see how people are organizing and kind of seeing like these narratives of these people who are trying to control the population, they're starting to dissect it. I'm like, all right, if we can get together now and we can counter these, and we can, create lawsuits against these kinds of bills and things like that, I think that we'd be in a much better position. So just adding to what you said, I completely agree with both y'all.
No, and I think that is one thing that Democrats have to stop doing, is being afraid. I think that we're really good at making a lot of noise, but we're not good at actually getting things done because we're so afraid. We want to be bipartisan. We want to do these things. But the reality is things are shifting at a really fast pace. So either we're going to like jump on board and be a part of the future and be a part of a narrative that is positive and inclusive, or we're going to be this pandering thing that just doesn't get anything done.
Right.
You know, and I'm going to tell you, you really hit something there just because of the recent conversations I've been having. A lot of people, damn, I just lost where I was going with that. What did you say? I'm sorry.
It'll come back.
I know. Well, what did you say?
I don't even remember. No, it's about, you know, Democrats not getting things done because they're afraid to push the boundaries.
And that's what a lot of people have been saying to me, is they're afraid that the Democrats aren't going to push enough. And I think that you're right. We need to completely switch our game plan. You know, we can't be progressive and stand still. You can't be progressive and throw your hands up and like you said, try to be constantly building those bridges. Sometimes you got to burn the bridge, you know, and build it back better. It sucks, you know, but that's the game. And until go ahead.
No, go. Sorry. I thought, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, until we change the game, don't get mad at people like me who are going to play the game so that we can get a seat at the table.
Exactly.
Like I'm going to get my seat at the table. And if you're going to make me play this game, then I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to make me feel bad for it, because that's what you're making me do to get your attention. That's what you're making me do to get you involved.
Right. You can't change the game until you're in it.
Nope. Exactly.
Don't you guys think that the current Democrat, so I'm a far leftist liberal. I don't really subscribe to being a Democrat. I just feel like the Democrats of today are the central party. I don't even feel like that they are progressive enough. And I think that's where the conversation needs to happen, is if you guys really want to get things done, then the progressives need to be a lot louder to pull us a little center left and start progress, or we're just going to go back to the status quo and just keep going out along the same path that we've had before. You know, LGBTQ rights are not going to happen by centrists. That's going to happen by people of diverse backgrounds that are going to come with different perspectives, that are going to put things into play, like protecting LGBTQ communities from laws like, or, you know, these laws being signed where they can't be, you know, get healthcare and stuff like that. That should be a priority, and that won't be done by centrists, because they're only worried about just staying the course and keeping everybody happy. That's, as much as I appreciate everybody's political backgrounds, that's my main frustration with Democrats of today.
You know, but I can't say that I don't feel the same way. I mean, it's really one of the reasons I'm getting into it, because I keep telling people that I'm going to do this my way. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, I know I'll be handled to some degree by campaign managers, whatever that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do this my way, because with the history that I've had, and I think we've talked about this on a show together before, Saadia, but with my history that I have, I don't want to hide anything. I can't hide anything from anybody. And I don't want anybody to be able to use anything against me. And I haven't been through anything that majority of Americans don't go through every day. You know, so why not use that, you know, as my platform? But I'm discovering that's what makes me dangerous. When nobody can control me with information against me, then they can't control me.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that scares them.
Yeah, and it scares them.
It should, for all the right reasons.
It should. Yep. But that's what we need to do, is when they see these people coming down the pipeline that they can't discredit, you know, but through their personal, because we're open about it, and that we're going to be progressive, because we know you can't attack us. You know, we know you can't. There's nothing you can come and say that I will not lay out there on my own. So
exactly,
bring it. You know, now let's talk politics. You want to talk all the personal shit? Cool. But now let's talk politics.
Right.
Absolutely.
And once they lose that, you know, once the Ted Cruzes and the Jim Jordans and all those types lose that information that, you know, whatever they've got, somebody has held over their damn heads. But
Matt Gaetz is out too now. I don't know if you guys saw right before the show. Matt Gaetz has got a fire under his butt. He's been, I guess he did the bad thing with a 17-year-old, or something happened, something bad with a 17-year-old. I don't know the details, but I was like,
that would explain why they were saying he's going to resign from Congress and take a job at Newsmax.
Yes. Amazing. Am I the only one that thinks he looks like Gumby?
And look, let me tell you, I'm not one to be talking about hairlines or anything, but holy shit,
like,
his hairline.
Perfect angle. Every time I see him, I'm like, what up, Gumby? Like, I
I'm never going to unsee that.
He travels with a hair person. He's got to travel with a hair
Is
person.
it real? Is it alive? Does it have a name? I need to know all of these things about the hair.
Oh my goodness. Oh, trafficking. He took a 17-year-old on the road. That's what it was. Sorry, I didn't want to misquote it. That's crazy.
Wow.
Holy crap.
But here's the thing.
See,
This
it's
is like
always
the
these
difference between
cocksuckers that stand up there and say this kind of shit. Oh,
this is like why
Democrats and liberals are horrible fucking pedophiles and they're trafficking children. No, motherfucker, that's you.
It's you.
no, because they're the magicians. They're like, look over here while I do this thing. Like, and that's why I had the face I had, and Ryan, you had the face you had of you're like stunned, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks. That makes
Like,
sense.
actually, let me run that back. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
fine.
no, yeah.
I think that's the reason we suck though as progressives, because then I look at Cuomo and I think he should have resigned a month ago. I hold them to the same standard, and that's the problem we have as progressives. I think that we hold everybody accountable, and then we end up like tearing out like our own, if you will. But we do it because it's the right thing to do. But then we'll like, I didn't want to feast on the Matt Gaetz thing because I was like, well, I would like for Cuomo to go too. So can we
I
just
say feast.
stop?
Get hungry.
She goes feast.
Why not?
I don't know if Feast and Matt Gaetz should go in the same
No.
Were you watching me write the outline or something? Because literally that was the next talking point. I was going to ask you both if you thought Cuomo should resign.
Yes.
Yes, he should.
Both of you guys?
Absolutely.
Yep.
The only reason I was hesitant at first was because I didn't know who would be taking over the cases against Trump if he left. But
Okay.
now knowing that
Interesting.
there would be a progressive person that would take those over and not derail trying to hold that Joker accountable. Yeah. I there is no way to, I'm so sick of this. Like, it was a different time. It was a different era. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
no.
if you hurt people emotionally or physically, and they're still harboring that 20 years later, obviously it wasn't just the time.
That's right.
So don't try to just like explain it away and pretend like it wasn't something to you, because it wasn't something to you. Obviously it was something to somebody else.
Damn, yep.
That's powerful. We all have
That
parents.
was
I
powerful
to this,
right there.
yeah, I don't think that your dad ever has. I mean, I won't speak, but for my dad, I've never had somebody be like, your dad, gave me weird hugs all the time, but oh, that was the time. No, there's like a common sense that just kind of like, that just goes through time. And you can't just, it's kind of like when people, blame gun control on people with mental illness. I have hated that since day one. That's just giving people a pass to just,
Yes.
okay, it's the same thing for this. Don't give
people. It's only white people that have mental illness when they shoot up.
men.
Yeah.
Men. Sorry,
No.
Ryan.
Sorry, Ryan, but it's true.
It doesn't hurt my feelings when it's true. And I will say what bothers me, and you guys both know that I suffer from being bipolar, and I don't want anybody to come take my guns because I'm medicated, I'm treated, I'm very responsible now that I know what I'm dealing with. So that, the red flag laws and stuff, that's touchy for me. I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, I can't dismiss the fact that there have been times where red flag type laws would have prevented mass shootings.
Well, and I think beyond that, like, I think that that's just another grasping at straws. It's like, let's blame it on this one thing, and then let's create all this noise around this one thing instead of saying, why don't we just make it harder or make it as hard to get a gun as it is to get a voter registration card or to get a driver's license or to get a passport? Like, why is it so much easier to get a gun than it is to do anything else in this country? Like, to me, that's the issue.
And I'm going to I'm going to listen to Saadia here because I've been really backing off. I mean, I tweet pretty directly at gun control and stuff, but I want to get elected too, and I live in Arizona. It's still a Republican. It's still a Republican area. I don't care what the sheets say. But man, like I said, I have my gun. I carry my gun because I get threats because of what I do now, but I can't ignore what's happening out here just because I like having my gun. Like, there are people that lose their kids. My kid could get shot in the grocery store, at the movie theater, My dad did not have to worry about me getting shot in high school. He didn't have to worry about it. You know why he didn't have to? Because it wasn't until Columbine, and that shit happened like my junior, senior year. We couldn't bring backpacks into the school for our finals. I remember that. That's when it all freaking started. This is insane. I don't know what the answer is, but holy shit. Sorry, I know I just went and ranted there. You both are looking at me like, huh?
No, it's Ryan Rants for a reason, right? But I think it's a bastardization of the Second Amendment. It's cherry picking what you want, because you can cherry pick the 13th Amendment too. If you ask somebody what the 13th Amendment is, they're probably going to say abolish slavery. But it also talks about indentured servitude and that being used as a punishment if you're convicted of it, right? So you can cherry pick whatever you want. And just a personal story, real quick. Like 2 weeks ago, my brother and sister came into town, and my mom's birthday is this Friday, so we decided to run to the mall to pick something up. We had a really tough time getting in, and it's central Houston, and we couldn't figure out when we got there. We're like, why was it so tough to get in? Half the stores were closed, and it was 4 p.m. So we're like, something happened. So we walked up to one of the booths, and we're like, hey, did something happen? And they said somebody was fighting. So we thought, to me, fighting in Houston is like knives and maybe guns. But I was like, if it was guns, wouldn't they have shut the mall down? We went into a store, and somebody told us that 15 minutes before we got there, they heard a whole bunch of gun noise down the hallway. And there's videos of people just fleeing and like hiding in the stores. And I'm like, well, shit, are we supposed to be here right now? Like, I'm panicking. Apparently HPD came out saying that there was an unconfirmed gun violence, but there's videos of the Galleria, everybody scrambling. And I'm like, this can't be normal. Why are the stores open? Like, this is just an everyday thing. People just went back to shopping like nothing happened after that. And if you are investigating to see 15, 20 minutes before, was there a shooting? This is not a reality that we can live in anymore. It's like, I respect the fact that people want their weapons. I have friends that live in Third Ward. They cannot walk in Third Ward without a weapon. I understand that. I just think that this is not the way that we're going to keep everybody safe.
Right.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I'm not anti-gun at all. I'm anti-people that have no business owning guns.
Yeah, and my thing is, if you a lot of the times, and this is just a reality, I don't care what anybody says, but a lot of the times, the same people that have an issue with background checks and legally going through the process to get guns are the people that wouldn't be able to pass said background check and be able to get said gun. They're usually the people that we're trying to keep the guns away from. Yeah. Those are the people that usually push back against us.
Well, of course.
Not all, but there's a good amount of them that the reason they push back against is because it affects them, meaning it would stop them from owning a gun. And they say, well, that's against my rights. No, not when you're a freaking felon or a thief or whatever the hell it is.
And it's such an old talking point that Republicans continue to use of when there's a mass shooting, they're like, all right, turn on the old talking point of they're trying to take our guns. No, we're not. We're not trying to take your guns. We're trying to figure out what the issue is and why this is such a trend in America. Like, you look at not any other country, but you look at our surrounding countries. You look at Canada, you look at England, you look at, all these other countries that are outraged and so surprised by, COVID restrictions are being lifted. Guess we're in for an influx of mass shootings in America. Yeah, because that's our reality. So how about stop propagandizing this idea that we're trying to take away your guns when we're just trying to protect our own people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Like we all just said, none of us have a viable answer at this point, but we all acknowledge that we need to find one. I think that's a fair statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We can look at other countries where they're doing it successfully. You look at Japan, where you're allowed to own a firearm, but they have to go through registration processes, mental health screenings. Have to store your ammunition and your gun differently. There's plenty of countries where you're allowed to have handguns and whatever I guess non-magazine guns, multi-magazine. I don't know what they're called. I just forgot what it called. High magazine guns, right? Is that what they? Yeah, yes. And that's not, I don't know why we have to have that argument here. If you're shooting moose with that, I don't know if you should be hunting, period, because obviously if you can't hit it something as big as a moose, then you should probably leave hunting alone. It's not your life calling.
No, that's actually pretty fair. Oh god.
There's a reason they call the AR-15 the lazy or bad hunter's rifle.
Yeah.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's why I always laugh. People are like, well, it's for sport. I'm like,
No, it's not, because if you're actually hunting with it, you're picking out bullet fragments from the animal you just killed before you can eat it. Good job.
Spicy. Why is it spicy?
Why is it so spicy?
Like, come on, chip the filling on that.
Right.
Okay, well, we skipped around a little bit, so I'm gonna circle back on my thing here. So Arizona, again, being the end of Women's History Month, I could not let this pass. And again, I'm going to thank Tori for sending me this one. Arizona today introduced a bill, HB 2140, and I'm actually going to read some of it to you because it's pretty crazy. But it charges doctors with a Class 3 felony if they perform an abortion after a heartbeat from the fetus is detected. It allows a father to file suit to claim damages against a mother who aborts. Now, I have the actual proposed bill up here, so I'm going to read a couple sections. Any physician who knowingly performs an abortion after determination that the baby has a detectable heartbeat kills a human being and is guilty of a Class 3 felony. A person who assists a physician in performing an abortion in violation of subsection A of this section is guilty of a Class 3 felony. This section does not apply to a detectable heartbeat abortion if it is determined to be medically necessary to save the life of the mother whose life is endangered by a physical disorder, illness, or injury. Next one. Here's the one you guys are really going to love. The father of the baby, if the mother is not at least 18 years of age at the time of the detectable heartbeat abortion, may bring a civil action to obtain appropriate relief unless the pregnancy resulted from the plaintiff's criminal conduct or the plaintiff consented to the detectable heartbeat abortion. Relief pursuant to this subsection includes the following: money damages for all injuries, psychological and physical, resulting from the violation of this section, statutory damages for any amount equal to 10 times the amount of the detectable heartbeat abortion. Yeah. What do you guys think of that? That's being proposed here in Arizona.
Saadia, I'll let you go first because I have so many thoughts and I might not shut up.
Yeah, she's going to get them in order. So
tell me you're pro pregnancy without telling me you're pro pregnancy, because they couldn't give a shit afterwards what happens. I mean, this is that somebody said that the other red states will fall in line, and that was actually my thought when you started reading that. I was like, God damn it, you're going to inspire so many other states to fall in, and you've determined what is life, right? Like you said, heartbeat is life. Who are you to determine that? Are you a physician? Are you a doctor? The baby is not a term in the medical field. It's a fetus. I don't understand. There's no medical basis for this. This is just Duchess. I'm gonna pass it to you real quick.
So first of all, is this Gilead? Is that what we're doing? Second of all, part of me is not even surprised because there are some states in this country where if a woman miscarries, she can be charged with manslaughter. So there are it's already set up in this country to penalize women for being able to procreate and having any kind of body autonomy at all. I mean, I don't understand why this country is so bent on having control over women's bodies. And I don't know if it's because we're getting more comfortable in our own voices and we're actually rising to power. But here's the other thing. You want to file for damages for psychological damage or psychological, whatever. How about the woman that has to go full term with a pregnancy that she didn't want, that she's not ready to have? Being a mother is a really big responsibility. And if you're not ready or psychologically capable of doing that, you should have the choice. Also, late-term abortion is not a real thing. When you have a child that dies, you are forced to deliver because the child is going to die anyways. I have 2 friends that have had to go through this.
Yeah.
They call it late-term abortion. It is not actually abortion. So you want to penalize a mother for actually wanting her child, being forced to birth it, hold it in their arms for 5 minutes and watch it die? What is fundamentally wrong with you? I don't get it. And
No, and that's, of course I knew it would spin you both up, which, it should. It should spin us all up. But I think more men need to stand up and say that this isn't okay.
White men. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, more white men. Yes.
I don't mean to keep saying white men, and it's
I say it all the time.
So what I'm doing, but you guys hold a lot of power in this country.
Yes.
We do, and that goes back to, I've talked a lot about realizing what white privilege really is, and realizing the benefits that I inherently get from that. And that realization has helped me understand just how much power I have, as compared to, unfortunately, like I have more power than you because you're a woman, and it shouldn't be that way, because you guys are both, witty, smart as shit, and better at probably a lot of things than me. But
well, and you have more power because we're two ethnic women too.
Yeah,
that
that piece.
That one.
And you're right. I tell people all the time, I watched my wife in the military have to work twice as hard as the other, as the white guys and stuff to get half as much, and it's, you see that time and time again with women, and transitioning into this is what else is going on in Arizona. It's not just trying to control their bodies, but they're actually trying to control their votes too.
Campaign legal was not allowed to speak, even though he had concerns with the bill. Mr. Chair, today we prohibited April Ignacio from Tohono O'odham
Representative Solomon,
Indivisible.
you must stick to explaining your vote. If you have
Mr.
procedural
Chair,
issues, then that is not germane to explaining your vote.
Mr. Chair, these people signed in.
How do you vote? How do you vote?
I'm in the middle of explaining my vote.
You are not explaining your vote. How do you vote?
It is upsetting.
Time is up, Representative Solomon. Record Representative Solomon as a no vote and call the next member.
You cannot do that. Point of order.
Point of order. Yes, point of order.
I cannot say for you, you vote yay or
I'm not.
nay.
I'm just saying you're down as not voting because you're not voting.
Point of order. If we were on the floor and you were to vote for Representative Solomon, I think I remember that to be a crime.
That's a felony. Mr. Chair, you committed a felony.
That's a felony. You just committed a felony. Awesome. And to
glad mansplaining got a felony for once. Sorry.
Say that again. Say that again in case I talked over you.
No, sorry. I just said I'm glad that mansplaining finally got a felony. It's about time. So.
So true. But they didn't. They recorded her as a no vote.
Oh, they did.
And of course, nobody was penalized for doing that.
As far as I know, I will admit that I need to go dig and see if anything came of it. But as far as I know, no.
Like, how much longer are we going to be dealing with this? Like, how much longer? Is this just the trajectory our country has always been on and it's always going to be on? Like, it literally feels like Gilead. Like, women are finally finding a voice. They're finally being seen as somewhat equal, even though we're having to work twice as hard at everything. And that's not taking anything away from other marginalized communities. Like, I see them and I respect them. And, their fight is very different than mine. And I respect that. But why is it so hard, especially for a certain demographic of people, to just accept that I deserve a seat at the table just as much as you do? And honestly, I might deserve it more because I've had to work twice as hard to get here.
Yep. Preach.
Yep. I got nothing to add to that.
This is Ryan Rants, right? Like, I'm allowed to rant.
Rants away. Rants away.
I just don't want I don't want the viewers to think like, gosh, she's such a bitch. Like,
no, that's why we're here.
I love you.
Person, I'm just very opinionated.
and if anybody's here, they love that I'm opinionated, so they're bound to love you too. So
fabulous.
But then, Doug, this is pissing me off, and I wanted to ask you if it would equally upset you. So this was Doug Ducey pushing the border crisis that we have, and of course, if you didn't know, Kamala Harris was appointed to oversee it, and this is what he had to say.
Well, I have been informed that Vice President Kamala Harris has been put in charge of border security. She's about the worst possible choice that one could make. In no point in her career has she given any indication that she considers the border a problem or a serious threat.
Okay. Okay.
Now I got it.
That was my response.
Okay. All right. And then you said Ted Cruz to the border to film some stupid ass commercial or whatever the hell he was doing. I mean, like, is that the most capable person that we have? He went and pointed at the border, right? Like, what was it? He was there, like, I don't even know what it was. I can't even consider that a photo op because, yeah, would you print those? No,
somebody on the show last night called it the Texas Blair Witch Project.
I called it his Sean Spicer moment.
Oh my God, it's embarrassing. How are you going to talk about the disqualify other people when the supposedly qualified people have never done anything? You can sit here if you want to talk about, talk about the representatives Cornyn here. You can talk about Ted Cruz. You guys know him very well. Greg Abbott. These are our qualified representatives that are supposed to keep us safe at the border, right? These are the same people that lifted the COVID mask mandates, okay? But now they're blaming immigrants for bringing in COVID. So, illegal immigration for bringing it. So do you believe in it or do you not? Or do you just sway with wherever you feel like you can get the most traction? The fact that they disqualify people, but then they can't look at their own constituents, it's
well, and also think about like if Republicans are so good at branding, which let's give them that, they are, okay. If you're really thinking of it from a marketing standpoint, like, do you want a vanilla white person representing our immigration policies, or do you want a person of color that actually understands what it's like to immigrate into this country and has family that has had to immigrate into this country and has an idea of how that process should work and how it should work well for everybody involved? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's my brown skin talking.
Yeah.
So frustrating.
It is, and I just wanted to add two things. One, learn how to say her name.
That was
yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Can't even say her name correctly.
Well, he knows how to say it.
He does it on purpose.
Oh, they all do it on purpose, and that's pure racism. That's racism.
Yep.
Kamala, you piece of
Yeah, it's not that difficult unless you're illiterate, and he's. I would be more than happy if he was admit to that.
That'd be great.
But just to make it known, I really think you're a douchebag. No, dude.
Yeah. For the record.
For the record, I mean, I just gotta
put suck at life. But.
Yeah. So it's the silencing the women. It's the trying to control women. It's like you guys are this magical creature. You create our future. You birth our children. You create our families. You have careers on top of that. Like, I don't care what anybody says. You guys do so much more than a typical man, and men are scared of that for some reason, and they spend so much of their time trying to figure out how they can control the fucking awesome things that you can do, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it pisses me off from a father standpoint. I'm not going to sanction anything or anybody trying to control my daughter, trying to control her uterus, trying to punish her for like I think Saadia said, making the correct life choices for her. Maybe it was you, Danielle. Sorry, but no woman should be punished for doing what's best for her. No woman should be punished for making a medical decision that she needed to make for herself. Just like all these men don't like being controlled, don't want anybody telling them what to do and all this shit. Leave women alone. It really is that easy. Because here's the thing. If Saadia decides to go get an abortion tomorrow, what effect does that have on my life?
Correct. 0.
Hopefully none.
Right. Touché.
Yeah. Your fiance looks like I wouldn't want to mess with him, so I'm gonna.
No, he's so sweet. He's an angel. I get really frustrated. Yeah, I get really frustrated because the grilling. I've never had to have an abortion. I've never been pregnant, but I can empathize with the people who've had to, right? And I can tell you, if my guy friend talks about getting a vasectomy, all he has to go in, it's a 20-minute appointment, boom, done. I had no idea about like the actual steps of it until he got it done just recently. He didn't have to go through any screenings, any cool down time. When you're thinking about having an abortion, you have to go through like a think about it time, a counseling time. I don't know if that's unique to Texas, but
I did.
Okay. Oh, you did? Okay. Well, I think that they go through, like here you can go through, and if you go to the wrong clinic, they'll give you like your ultrasound and, make you feel bad that, oh, are you really sure you want to give up this life? Why do we have to be guilted into it? But a guy can just go in pretty much way easier than us and just go get a snippy snip.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't much easier than what women have to go through, because I know they make you guys go through ridiculous processes to make that decision. All I had to do was I went to like I think it was a half-hour like briefing, and I got it done when my wife was in the military. So, sorry, that's the dog. But I got it done when my wife was in the military. So it was like a mass briefing with like, it was me and like 30 other guys. And we're just sitting there and they're giving us a PowerPoint presentation on, so they're going to cut your ball here. And they're gonna, does this sound fun to you, dude? He's like, oh yeah, my wife, yeah, this is how I want to spend my weekend. Huh. But the reality is that it was much easier. It is much easier for men. It was
like a group.
Oh,
there was a group.
No, we didn't have this. We didn't have the group.
No, I know that. I mean, like, I would hope not. That would be some Gilead stuff for sure.
On the left.
No, I meant like, so the viewing for the video was like with other people.
Oh
he needs in.
She
needs in. Sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it was like a bunch of us, and we were just sitting there, and they gave us the briefing, and then they literally, as we walked out the door, they're like, okay, you'll be in at 9 a.m., you'll be in at 9:30, you'll be in at 10, you'll be in at 10:30. That's how
y'all are like high-fiving on the way out. Like,
yeah. And then like a group of us would see each other, like we saw each other in the waiting room the next morning. You know, we're like, hey, dude, what's going on? Yeah, you 9 a.m. Yeah, like, yeah, 10 a.m. over there. Yeah.
Wow. Person comes out there like, you okay? Anybody? Are we? Oh, you're good. Okay, cool. All right, I'm next.
Nobody walked out of there like that. And they were smart. They walked you in the one side, right? They didn't walk the guys back out in front of you. They took them over by the elevator so that all the people waiting didn't. Because man, you come out of there. Yeah,
I'm sure it's not easy.
Don't get me wrong. It wasn't bad. Like because I watched my wife go through what she went through, I know that what I went through wasn't that bad, you know. But if a man doesn't have that perspective for whatever reason, then, you know, he may complain a little bit more. But like you said, Saadia, it was 20 minutes. They don't even put you to sleep. They just make everything numb. So you're literally like, you can feel them tugging, you know, on it and doing what they're doing, you know, but you're just sitting there like looking up at the ceiling like, you know, and they're talking to each other like, yeah, snip right there. Yep, nope, right there. Yep, make sure you get that. And you're just sitting there listening to it, you know, and they're like, okay, you're all done. You're like, that was it?
Oh, yeah. Man, I think for a woman, you have to go to multiple steps. I've had a girlfriend, this was like a couple of years ago, who had to do it. And it's such a personalized experience. Like, it's not like you watch a video all together or something like that. She felt targeted. Like, she was like, I feel bad for having to do this. And I'm just like, that's, I think, and for, I'm hearing your experience, and it's like, okay, you got to think about it, but at the same time, it's not like somebody's guilt tripping you like before you make this decision. And I feel like that's the difference.
Huge difference. And not only that, I will say this, that my wife had to sign off on it. They wouldn't do it unless she signed off on it.
Interesting.
So, you know, there was that. And maybe it was because it was in the military that it was done different. Maybe if it had been done in the civilian sector, maybe it would have been more like your friend's experience. You know, but yeah, they wouldn't do it. And, you know, and they asked us how many kids we had, made us verify that we didn't want any more and why. And then at the end made her sign off saying that she was fine with no more kids and fine with proceeding with the procedure. So
somebody said she didn't have to sign off.
No.
In the chat.
Really? Yeah.
And I've had an abortion.
Oh, have you?
I have. I made a bunch of videos about this on TikTok a while ago, so I don't feel like, oh no, this is brand new news. Like, okay, what happened? It was in my 20s. It was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I won't go into great detail. But it was a much different experience than that. Yes. So I did it medicinally because I was brought up very religious and thought that if I ever had to make this choice for myself, I needed to suffer. And the medicinal way is you're sent home. Well, you're like brought into this room and you're given the ultrasound, and they're like, do you want a picture of the fetus? Do you want to see it?
Oh,
do you want to see it? And like all this shit. And I was like, no, like, and the whole time the father was like, I'm not going anywhere near that. I'm not going with you. I don't want my name associated with that. It's going to ruin my career. I won't even take you. I was like, well, I can't drive myself home. He's like, well, if you do it medicinally, you can just take it home. I was like, okay, cool. He's like, if you have this, I'll deny it's mine forever. It's like, cool. So I went by myself at the age of like 23 into this Planned Parenthood because I had no insurance, and because I was performing then, and they were like trying to guilt me into this. And literally I was like, no, I need to do this. I need to do it now. I need to do it now. And this woman was like, she literally grabbed my hand and she's like, are you being pressured into this? I said, no. but I don't want to have a child with this person who obviously wants nothing to do with my life. Like, and so I went home, did all of the pills, and it is the most excruciating pain I've ever been in for a solid 8 hours of my life. Like, literally felt like somebody was ripping like the insides of my body out. It was horrible. And it was just me and my puppy, because I had a puppy. And I'm sitting there watching Dexter, just hoping I don't die. And then
that might not have been the best choice.
That's some sadistic shit right there.
I have to say, I've never put those two together until right now. It's like, maybe that wasn't, but you know, women in true crime don't get into.
How did you end up making me laugh telling me an abortion story? How the fuck did you do that?
It's what I do.
She's the Duchess.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But yeah, like I mean, at the time I was horribly, horribly embarrassed by my decision, thinking like maybe this is the last time I would ever be able to have a kid. And now I'm approaching 35, but I know at that time in my life, it was the best decision for me. It was the best decision for that fetus. I don't consider that fetus a human. I mean, it's like buying a table from IKEA. You get a box of all the parts, but it's not a table until you put all the parts together, right? Yeah. And so for me, it was the right choice, but it is a very isolating, very vulnerable, very exposing process for any woman. And I can't imagine a younger woman. I mean, I didn't even tell my sister, who was my absolute best friend, until last year, because I was so being on TikTok and having like a following that I have, I felt like there are a lot of people that also have been through this, and I need to stop holding on to this story only for me. Like, I felt like that was really selfish. And instead I was like, I've been through this too. Like, you're not alone. We've all been through very traumatic things in one way or another. And the only way that things are going to get better is if we start being honest about our experiences and validating each other in our pain. But yeah, I watched Dexter while I had a medicinal abortion.
You have to go back to that. You are so strong, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that by yourself. But thank you for being able to open up about that, because I know some people that, like you said, it was a very isolating experience, and when they went through it, they expressed the same thing. And I don't think I know anybody that went through the medicinal or watched Dexter during it, but I think it was probably like, a very impactful moment in their life. So thanks for sharing that with like everybody.
Yeah. And it's not a story that I share out of a motivation to like clout seek or anything like that, but it is,
of course,
there is power in, when you get to a place in your life where you feel like you can share a vulnerable story, there is power in being able to share that story. If you were to ask me 10 years ago if I were to be able to share that story, I would burst into tears, not out of guilt, but out of shame. And so, yeah, it's taken a long time, but yeah, that's my story.
I want to say one thing, and I get really upset when people call folks like you and me clout chasers for sharing our personal stories. Because like Saadia said, that story you just shared, that's not easy to do. I don't care how many times you've done it or whatever, opening your soul up like that to people, whether it be a camera or in person, that's hard to do, and so I think any attention you get or so-called clout you get because of it it's deserved. You're bringing attention to an issue that needs attention brought to it. And as a man, hearing what you just said, I'm going to tell you what I thought as you were wrapping it up. As you were wrapping up your story, I thought we need to do better so that women don't feel as alone as you just described to me. Like,
that was the hardest part, honestly. Like, the pain is one thing that lasts a day.
Yeah.
But I can honestly say I've never felt more alone in my life than I did in that 24 hours.
And that, like that
social stigmas and all of the things,
But that breaks my heart, honestly. So, that's a weird transition, but here we go. We're gonna go into
bring up Dexter. Too fast.
So if Dexter was a Biden interview. No, but did you guys catch any of the Biden's first press conference?
I didn't, honestly.
No? Oh, I actually might have a video you guys haven't seen then.
Okay.
So this is
Yes,
a
let's watch it.
small little snippet of his hour interview.
Your old friend, Mitch McConnell, says you have only spoken to each other once since you took office, and that you have moved far left since taking office. Do you see it the same way he does? Have you rejected bipartisanship?
I would like elected Republican support, but what I know I have now is I have electoral support from Republican voters. Republican voters agree with what I'm doing. And so unless Mitch says the last thing I did, this last piece of legislation, is so far left, well, then he ought to take a look at his party. Over 50% of them must be over that edge as well, because they support what I did.
So what do you guys think of that little statement?
So first of all, I find it hilarious that Mitch McConnell just flip-flops like a little flounder. He's so cute. So remember when Biden left when he left the Senate, Mitch McConnell gave him this farewell speech that was so glowing and just like, so glad we could work together so well, blah, 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 blah. It was all for a show. The man is not real. He's just like this amoeba that just like forms to anything that'll let him stick to it. I don't care what Mitch McConnell says. He's actually getting stuff done. So
Yeah,
you got
he's
anything
irrelevant.
to clip, Saadia?
Yeah, he's totally Mitch Turtle Soup McConnell is totally irrelevant. He's just trying to keep his base happy. Honestly, I think that he's just like, I'll just say this because in 2 years we've got some elections coming up, and then so he's trying to keep the momentum going with that fire base that he wants, but he's completely irrelevant. Just like I don't give our previous president any time out of my mouth anymore, except for today, which was unique. I haven't seen. I didn't even want to see that clip because he triggers me. He reminds me of my ex, and except my ex was even broker than him, if that's possible. So I was like, I don't want to see this. Right. So I don't like him or Mitch McConnell or anybody who currently has zero power. As someone who is far left, and I always tell people this, Biden was not my first choice, my second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice. We can go down the list. He was nowhere near the top. But as a far left progressive, I am quite pleased with everything that he's doing, and he's not just laying down and, appeasing the center, the center of the aisle. I think he's doing a wonderful job, especially with the vaccine distribution. I mean, we had, I don't know, it was like 4 million doses distributed in 1 day or something. I forget what it was.
Yeah, he hit his 100-day goal in 50 days or something crazy.
Now they're going for 200.
Yep, he hit. I actually have that. Hang on. 42 day early. He's 42 days early on his vaccine promise, and he doubled the promise.
Awesome.
That's right.
So, and these are a few other talking points that were in the hour that I thought were meaningful. So they're estimating now that after the relief checks were sent out, economists are now estimating that the GDP will grow 6% over the next forecast for the next year.
It's amazing how that works, right?
Amazing when you give people money, how the gross domestic product increases.
They pay bills and buy things. Weird.
Yep.
Then you can collect taxes. So strange.
So I know. And then he actually went into quite a bit of detail about the border crossings. Everybody, the right's been hammering him, saying the border crossing been increasing, and he was like, actually, under Donald Trump, they increased 31% at the same time of the year, and he actually explained why it went up. He goes, because it's cooler, it's easier for them to cross right now. That's why they're crossing, around this time frame, December, January, whatever. And he went into good detail about it. Like when he got done, I was like, I wanted to be like, yeah, wiggle out of that one. You guys got anything else?
Wasn't the last caravan during an election year in the winter? Wasn't it the same timing? I don't know if that's right, but that's somehow connected.
It feels like it. Yeah, it feels like it.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Somebody tell me I'm wrong. I'm fine with it.
You guys? There was that photo op. Did you guys see? And I think it was totally staged. I think Abe did a piece on this, but there were all these people. It was a caravan. This was pretty recent. I would say in the last 2 or 3 months, and they had President Biden let us in T-shirts. All of them were wearing it. Did anybody see that where they were kneeled down at the border? And
I didn't.
What'd you think?
I saw something similar to that, and I know that a lot of people are saying that the immigrants are getting in and they're like are thinking that they can come in now because Biden is president. I just think that it's theater, honestly. I think that maybe there was one or two people that were wearing Biden shirts and they're like, oh, see, we can point the finger at him instead of pointing it at the guy who was literally in office like few weeks ago for 4 years. I completely destroyed him.
But where did they get all those shirts? They're immigrants with like barely food. I'm like, did they have a post office box that they picked up the order from? It just seemed totally staged to fit the right's narrative, and you can't even see their faces because they're all bent down in like a prayer pose. Abe did the video on this. That somebody just said. Kimberly just said that. Thank you, but you guys should take a look at that because it's very interesting. They are trying to pose this to be a certain way. Even when I saw the picture the first time, I was like, I want matching shirts. Those look crisp, like But they've got it more organized than I do, and these guys are running from poverty. How did they do that? Like, it doesn't make sense. So
I think that's a point that we all need to pay attention to. Like they're being fed resources from somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have to be. But that was you guys both just brought up the point that I wanted to before we move on to the last subject. So Biden, at the time of that press conference, Biden had been in for 65 days. And I think today may be his 70th day, I think. It might be. Either way, he's been in for just over 2 months. And I think you had said it just a second ago, Saadia. They are blaming him for all of this stuff that, like, you can directly point to the previous administration and say, no, that was because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what sense does this make? How does this make sense in their minds? I don't get it.
Because they're in a cult.
Yep.
I'm
That's
serious.
right.
That was the perfect response because it was like everybody else was quiet and they're like, because they're in a cult.
I mean, seriously, when you're like so indoctrinated by somebody, they can do no wrong. And so it must be the other guy's fault. It can never be our guy's fault because his face is on a flag that's bolted onto our truck bed.
Yep.
Now, these are people that I always tell people this, that these people, the cult people that you speak of, they've never been involved in politics ever in their life. If you ask them to name the freedoms under the First Amendment, they would say freedom of speech and end it there because they remember that from first grade, which is probably the furthest they got in school. They are fanboys and girls of personalities. They are a fanboy of this Trump personality. So whatever he says does go. Logic, that's why people are like, how do we have a conversation with these people? You don't, because you can't tell somebody that wrestling is fake if they have been told that it's real and they think it's real. That's exactly what's happening here. You're not going to win this conversation, and you will never be able to speak facts with them because they've created an alternate reality. They have alternative facts. Like that was never a thing when we spoke normal English, and now that's like something that people use in their daily language. Yeah. So I don't know. They are exactly like you said, Duchess. They're in a cult. And
Yep. All right. So moving on from the cultists, I have one cool question I'll ask you at the end, but I actually wanted to ask you guys a question about my daughter. And I wanted to talk just real quick about something. She's 7. And the last 2 years we've homeschooled her. We were moving around a little bit. So, we hadn't settled down here in Tucson yet. So she doesn't have many friends. And I have this building fear inside of me of letting her out into the world right now. Like, and I'm worried that I'm going to shelter her too much, but at the same time, the video that I posted on TikTok this morning was of a woman walking down the street, from a subway or whatever in New York with this dude. Like, if he was following me, talking to me like that, I would have been intimidated. And she's filming herself, like, trying to tell this guy, like, I'm not interested. I'm trying to be nice. Leave me alone. And those are the things that I play in my head, like, that I'm trying to protect my daughter from, and talking to another friend of mine, she's like, yeah, I was raped at 11. There's somebody in my family who was raped by her dad's friend from the time she was 8 until 18. And nobody in our family said anything. She thought it was her fault. Until she was in her 40s, and somebody finally acknowledged it and said, yeah, we all knew something and we should have said something, but we didn't, because that's not how it was back then. Right. So it's like, I don't trust anybody with my kids, yeah. Not right now, You know, she's 7. You know, when she's a little older, she can come talk to me and I can, you know, stuff like that. But right now, I'm so worried about somebody taking advantage of her. But I feel like she's going to be too naive at the same time. So what would your advice be to a crazy father like me who's struggling with this?
So, as somebody who was raised with two parents that kept me in a bubble, I mean, I had a 9 o'clock curfew even at the age of 25. You know, I wasn't allowed to go out very much. I was not ever allowed to spend the night at anybody else's house. The first time, I mean, super protected, right? Like, I wasn't even allowed to have guy friends. It was wild, right? And in my mind, I was like, the first relationship I get in, I have to marry this person, right? So your mind starts warping when you're overprotected. So my first shock was when I went to UT. I left school here because Houston Baptist University was trying to nail me to the cross. So I decided I was going to go someplace else. I went to UT Austin. And the shock of my life was getting there and seeing what nightlife was and seeing how people are and what a drunk person is, and realizing too late when a guy is going beyond his borders, because you don't know that can actually happen. I married somebody that was physically, emotionally, verbally abusive to me because I thought all those things, these kinds of things, I'm not abused. This is not real, right? I was overprotected to the point where I was too naive for a very long portion of my life. And, you know, like I said, I was about to be a hashtag, right? Like I almost lost my life literally one night to this person. And I will tell you that I understand that you want to protect your daughter, but definitely, like Amanda said, let her fly a little bit. She has to know and be prepared for these situations now versus when she's 20 something and she's created a Disney World in her head. We don't live in Disney World.
Yeah, and I would piggyback off of that by saying, have the tough conversations with her now in a way that she can understand. Teach her how to know when, you know, how do I explain this? Give her the tools that she needs to stand up for herself, speak her mind, and understand where the boundaries are and should be in social settings, and be able to speak out. I think that is one of the hardest things. I grew up in a sheltered world, but not to that extent that you did. But I think what was hard for me was not having found my voice until my 30s, and always feeling like, you know, kind of falling into that nice girl syndrome of, you know, oh, well, I'm just supposed to be the nice one. And, you know, everybody, I'm the peacekeeper, instead of, you know, I think the video that you posted was really powerful, because that woman, even though she was in a really horrible situation, she never stopped telling him no, ever.
Yep.
Like, she was like, we are not doing this.
Yep. No, you can't have my phone number. No, I don't want to keep talking to you. Like, no.
But like, how many young women would say, fine, let me give you my phone number, just get off my back. And then they would
stop walking. Stop walking don't stop walking.
Don't stop walking. You know, but also don't teach her to be a victim. Teach her to be an advocate for herself in creating this level of critical thinking of saying, you know, if you feel uncomfortable, you are allowed to stand up for yourself in these ways. These are how you can protect yourself. These are how you can protect other people. You know, this is how you should, this is what a healthy relationship between two people is in all the different platforms. And I don't envy you for 1 minute, because a young girl, young women are, I mean, speaking from when I was young, we're very aware, you know, we're hyper thinkers, we're very intuitive, but also very visual, like always taking in the surroundings around us, because it's been told that we need to constantly have our head on a swivel.
Yep.
But if you're the kind of dad that says, here are the ways in which you can put up boundaries with other people, healthy boundaries, and if people don't respect those boundaries, you have to do X, Y, or Z to protect yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody said martial arts. I agree with that.
You know, I actually been thinking about that, not just for her, but honestly for me too. You know,
you should.
Yeah, I mean, all joking aside, I mean, not just for the physicality and the fitness of it, but just with everything going on, you know, I figured it wouldn't hurt to learn how to throat punch somebody.
It's really not hard to take someone down. Like,
no, I mean, you're right. You know, if I got into a fight, I think I could hold my own. But you know, I wouldn't mind learning a few. You know,
you got another pressure point.
Yeah, you take Krav. Like, I'm not a big fan of Israel, so I'll just keep my politics to myself on that. But I learned they have a Israeli art which is called Krav Maga, which is like a combination of it, and it's easy to pick up, and it's really based on your reflexes, and you can be 100 pounds, 120 pounds, even lighter than that, and you can utilize portions of your body. And I'll tell you, I felt a lot more comfortable being out by myself once I started taking that. Just because if somebody tries to grab your hand, I will break your wrist in half. Like, there's this confidence that you get. Like, I know how to pull you in and use your weight against you. So I think that would be actually a great bonding moment, even for you and her, if you guys did it together.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think that there is also something like protect her naive mind in a space where she can still be naive because she is protected by you, and kind of let that form into don't let her become a victim or have this like mindset of like somebody's always out to get me. Like, I think about, I don't know if I told you guys, I posted about this, but I woke up to a man trying to get into my back door the other day, but he was just very confused and it was alarming. It was all the things, but I was able to, in that moment, say, he's not being violent. Let's take everything down. What does he need? I need him out of my house. 3 cops are in my house. I'm actually more uncomfortable with 3 cops in my house than this dude that doesn't even know how he ended up sleeping on my back porch. But it was because I'm 34 and I've had some life experience, but it's figuring out what are your boundaries and how do you exercise
that story freaked that I was when I saw that story, I was like, holy shit, imagine waking up and some dude's just like on your back porch just chilling.
He slept there. He rearranged all my furniture. That was the biggest pain in the ass.
Oh. He made himself comfortable.
He made himself real comfortable. And I went out there and there was a dime on the table. I'm like, you left me a tip?
What an insulting tip to
put it back here. That's to put it back.
I gave him a shirt. The poor thing had no shirt, no shoes. I offered him coffee. He said no. On his way out, he's like, I'm so sorry. I must have scared you half to death. I'm like, you did. Get out. Here's a shirt. Bye. Like,
yeah, you did scare me. Thank you. Yeah. That's where you got me in the story, by the way, where I almost spit my drink out. Was like, so, I didn't know what to do, so I offered him coffee. I was like, what?
I don't know. I was like, it's 7:00 in the morning. This is what I do at 7:00 in the morning. You guys are here. Do you want it? And then the coffee was like, well, I already had a cup, but I'll take some breakfast. I was like, get out.
Wow. I apologize for most men.
He was much older than you and much dumber, so you're fine.
Well, with that being said, I want real quick, everybody that's still here, thank you so much. Amanda's in here, my brother Pat. You guys have been making awesome comments the whole time, so thank you for engaging us and whatnot. And I started Women's History Month off with Mermaid Mama Maggie on the show, and I get to end it with you two ladies. So thank you for joining me today and having some of these fun and tough conversations. And Saadia, do you want to tell everybody one more time where they can find you?
Sure. I'm on TikTok, Saadia ____M. And I'd love to see you guys there. Thank you so much for having me, Ryan and Dutchessprim. I absolutely adore you. You're like one of my favorite. You, Abe, and Ryan. There's like a few of y'all that I like. I have to go to your profiles because you don't always show up on my page. But I do it because I absolutely love your videos. Thank you for keeping me laughing.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
And Duchess?
I always get so uncomfortable when people are like, you're so great.
I know, I did too. I'm like,
thank you. I think the same of you. I'm like, I'm obsessed. You can find me at Dutchessprim, DUTCHESSPRIM on Twitter or TikTok. On Instagram, it's Dutchess.prim. Somebody else took my name. I don't know who you are, but I will find you.
Wow.
And we will buy it back.
Yeah, I will. I'll make you coffee. How about
that? Nope. You know what? She'll actually make you breakfast. How about that?
Full circle. Yeah. But thank you so much, Ryan. This was amazing. Saadia, you're amazing. This was really awesome. And I just, one thing I really, really, really appreciate about you, Ryan, is just how honest you are about your story.
Yes.
And when I tweeted at you the other day saying it's men, thank you for standing up for women like us. Like, we need more men like you. And I really meant that. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited to see your run.
Oh,
which I can
that means a lot to me on a lot of levels. So thank you for that. And the message meant a lot when you sent it to me. So thank you, because it's weird. I feel awkward sometimes standing up for another community that I don't necessarily understand. Like you stand up for Asian community, Black community, women. I don't necessarily understand what it's like to be a woman, but I know what's right and wrong. And we just need to get to a point where people can be okay with not understanding, another person or a community, but still stand up for them. Like, I don't need to understand you or what you go through to know that this is wrong or how you should be treated. And I hope that we can get there sooner rather than later. Because like you both said, and like I said in the beginning of the show, you both are, amazing women that I follow, because not only are you funny, but, you have an intelligence, salted into everything you do that really keeps me engaged, so I go to you guys when I need a laugh, especially Saadia's, because she's always, she always lays everything out in a perfect way that it makes me laugh. And then at the end, she's like, and you're stupid. And,
the pointing blows my mind. I'm like, I don't get how she does that.
Oh, I had to retire the pointing for a bit because people were complaining on Instagram. They're like, I can't read the points. It's too fast. I'm like, geez, guys. So now I'm trying to mix in others with the pointing so that they can catch up. But
yeah, I'm not going to tell that other story. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for being on here. If you don't, please subscribe to all my YouTube channels. I will be back with Nikki on Monday at our normal time, which is 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. Sorry, this time zone thing.
5 o'clock Central.
Yeah, 5 o'clock Central. So join us there. And as always, much love and keep fighting.